In light of Sexual Assault Awareness Month, RevNow is partnering with Dr. Vanessa Rodriguez, a trained therapist who specializes in sexual assault survivors, to create a 3-part series about survivor mental health. Thank you for being with us today, Doctor. Now, in this part of the series, we'll be discussing resources for survivors who can't access therapy. Now, my question that I have right off the bat is that domestic violence has risen recently due to COVID-19. How can those being affected by social distancing still receive help?
So this is a tough one. Domestic violence has been a world health crisis forever, right? And right now, because of COVID-19, it's increasing in lethality and severity like I've never seen it before. I've been working with victims for 15 years and offenders for 15 years. And it's absolutely, it's scary because what's happening with COVID-19, everybody's isolated, stuck at home. And so one of the many hallmark tactics abusers maintain power and control over their victim is through isolation, right? So now they're using COVID-19. It's like a perfect enabler for them. It's helping them even have a higher um, more escalated way of controlling them, keeping tabs on them, right? And so I always say, the most important thing is safety, right? Really talking to if there's kids in the home, and that right now is on the rise too, that people really in the media haven't really touched on, is child abuse being on the rise because domestic violence is on the rise. And so but again, just like there's rape crisis centers, there's a national domestic violence hotline. Everyone ideally would have their own within their county. I know we have one here in San Diego, DD Links. I know the other thing too is that while courthouses are closed right now, the Family Protection Unit is not. So what that means is people can still go into court and file for a restraining order. Judges are still looking at petitions to approve restraining orders. And so people don't think that, number one, they have legal kind of means to get to file for a restraining order because everything's on shutdown. That's not the case. There's the courthouse is still open just for those particular cases. Especially with domestic violence, at least here in San Diego, they're not arresting, they're only arresting felonies and domestic violence. So they are taking DV very seriously. So if someone calls to report a violation in a restraining order, someone stalking, because that's on the rise right now, or any kind of threat or active intimidation, property destruction, vandalism, those are all reportable, arrestable DV cases. And so people don't often know that too, that if your partner breaks your phone, that's a felony, right? That's a felony. And so because again, it's a felony and it's a DV, at least again, I'm just speaking for San Diego, they are not taking these cases lightly at all. Just last night, there was here in San Diego a case where a woman had broken up with her boyfriend about a week ago. And last night, was it last night or the night before? Anyways, recently, he, long story short, went in and shot and killed her two 15-year-old twin daughters and shot her older, about 21, 22-year-old son. They weren't his biological children. They were her children from another man. But that's a perfect example of what's going on right now. It's horrific. It is absolutely devastating what's going on. And so right now it is ever more important for victims um, in abusive relationships to speak out, to call. Everybody is on high alert right now. They are not going to minimize, not report, or not take the report. Um, Obviously, every case is different, but right now I know that I can confidently say that they are not taking any DV cases lightly. So um, I would, yes, I would report, right? If they're breaking things, destroying things, those are all arrestable offenses. But if you don't feel ready to report anything, again, you can always contact a hotline. And through the hotline, you can get connected with legal services, advocacy, case management, housing, short-term housing, long-term transitional housing, vouchers for hotels. Um, so there's a lot of services out there. Um, and if you don't want to utilize a service because even that is too frightening, again, it goes back to safety. That's first, number one. You have to stay safe. You have to teach your children how to stay safe. Come up with code words. If you feel you and your partner are tension is escalating and you feel that something's about to happen, you can teach your children when to leave, how to call 911, let a neighbor know. So safety at the bottom line, safety is paramount.
All right. You kind of answered all my questions again.
I'm sorry, I talk a
No,
lot. I'm
no,
telling
it's
you.
seriously, it's better because like I kind of doubled all these questions. But I'll just ask, what are ways to stay connected when going through the aftermath of a traumatic experience, whether it be sexual assault, rape, or domestic violence?
um, Well, I mean, I do individual therapy. I do couples. I do families, and I do groups. I love groups, especially for the victim experience, right? There's power in knowing that you're not alone. Okay. Obviously, groups and individual is ideal, right? Because in an individual setting, you get to have more one-on-one time. You can kind of really dive into more of the details of the trauma. You can get more detailed about your family history, um, so on and so forth with individual. Um, but with group, I'm a big advocate for group because again, the victim experience is very isolating. You feel there's a lot of shame, right? You feel alone. You feel like it's your fault. You feel guilty. All these things. You feel helpless. And so if you have a community of women or men, and I run a couple women's DV groups. I have a men's DV victim group. I have a women's offender group and I have a men's offender group. So there's something to be said about the idea of community and having people learn from your peers, right? It's really moving, um, when others are storytelling and we can relate, from here to here, right? And so there's a lot of benefit and gain in getting support from others who've shared a similar experience.